those unseemly hairs. And then people are coming out and they go, "Oh, you guys, it's a low hanging fruit to make fun of Robbie Anderson's hair." I didn't know. I didn't know that. Well, I should have known. There's a name for this hairstyle called wicks. Didn't know that. Like a candle wick.
I didn't know that either.
Um,
Um, and
anyway,
but
guess
shout
what
out to
is
Sideshow Rob. You know he's devastated, man. That was
That
was
was his
his
boy.
guy. Yeah,
you
that was.
liked him?
Oh yeah, that was what I think. That's basically what his
Entire
channel.
tagline is,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's what his thing was. But
Well, so
Robbie Anderson. Go ahead, Tony.
check this out. This is what happens on Sunday. We talked about it on the show. A lot of calls came in on the post game show talking about Robbie Anderson and what has been described as a temper tantrum by Jonathan Stewart. Gets in the face of a wide receivers coach. And, to be honest, it wasn't the worst thing I've ever seen. You know what I'm saying? But
Right.
you get in the face of a coach when you got a helmet on. They don't. The coach, arms folded, kept it together. A little bit of jawing after that seemed to escalate things a little bit. They were hyping this up from the beginning, not they but the Panthers media, maybe not the team media, but people like Joe Person were highlighting that Robbie Anderson was sitting away from the offense by himself. You could clearly see that Robbie Anderson was not happy with his role. And some people would say that this was arguably something that had been festering before this game. And we know that his name, he's aware of conversations about him. He's active on social media. He's probably heard the noise of people wanting to trade him. He certainly struck back at fans for criticism about his play last year, then struck at fans for the booing and the non-support and saying, look, those aren't real fans. So he's aware that, he's kind of in this odd situation. Matt Rule gets out. They're automatically asking him about it. So the spotlight's on Robbie. He knows there's a potential for a trade. And I think Robbie Anderson forced his way out on Sunday. He said, you know what? Screw this. I'm going to make you guys trade me. After he was asked to go to the locker room like a mini Antonio Brown, the next day I woke up and boy, they might as well have left him in California. They traded him to the Arizona Cardinals. Now, I was unaware when I woke up that the trade, I thought this would have been a decent addition to the Cardinals regardless, but Hollywood Brown suffered a foot injury in that game, and he's been the only semblance of offense that team's had as they've missed DeAndre Hopkins as well as A.J. Green with time. It's just been the Hollywood Brown show, and he gets hurt, and Robbie Anderson is traded for a 6th and a 7th round pick. Not next year, the following 2 years. I mean, like down the road. And on top of that, this trade comes with $19 million in dead money. Ugh.
Yeah.
Robbie Anderson is 2-0 versus the Panthers, bro. He is undefeated. He defeated them the offseason after his 1,000-yard season, getting a big, over-bloated contract that has been really just postponed till to now. Like now we're really paying it. We didn't even pay it last year. It feels like now we're paying it next year and the next year. So that's win number 1 for Robbie. And win number 2 was he's like, I want out of this mug and I'm gone. And he got it. Robbie Anderson, he's not the most well-spoken person, but I think he might be smarter than we give him credit for.
I mean, he's obviously doing something right. I mean, listen, you know what this says to me? This says to me that the Panthers were so desperate to get this man out of the locker room that they essentially took a bag of potato chips to get him out of there, man. I mean, you already mentioned it. I mean, this is a 6th round pick in 2024
terrible.
and a 7th round pick in 2025. I think especially after seeing what happened yesterday, it being such a public display against the Panthers coaching staff, it incredibly decreased the value of Robbie Anderson as a player. So basically, whatever they thought they were going to get for Robbie Anderson, that went absolutely out the door. And they did whatever they had to do to get him out. Some people are saying that we fleeced the Arizona Cardinals because if there was a chance that the Panthers were going to cut him outright.
Yeah.
That if we weren't able to trade anything for him, we were just going to let it go. or let him go. So I don't know, man. It's at this point, I'm just happy that he's out the door. I think that he was terrible for our locker room culture. He was the first one to throw every single quarterback that we had under the bus when he wasn't getting enough touches, when he was getting underthrown and overthrown. He has a history of fighting with our coaches. And look, man, I can't speak to who he is off the field, but on the field for the Carolina Panthers, he was never a difference maker. He dropped a ton of passes, and frankly, he's replaceable.
100%, man. And honestly, we got a sixth and a seventh for him, and that's more than I thought we were going to get. Remember, I said I didn't think he was worth a 6th-round pick.
How?
And, I mean, honestly, he was going to get cut. But here's the thing: do you think this is Wilkes putting a stamp on the team, like just immediately letting people know he's not going to put up with this shit? And he picked the low-hanging fruit. Like Robbie made the job easy for him. He had to pick a guy to make an example out of, and Robbie's just like, "Here, I'll be that guy." I mean, do you think that's somewhat of what Wilkes is doing right here?
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it has something to do with that, but I think it also has something to do with how he acted. And like the people that are defending Robbie, it's like, look, man, he might not have been wrong about his assessment of this football team, but still, man, and, we'll get into Jonathan Stewart here in a minute and how that whole reaction went down because now Robbie and Jonathan Stewart, who was just recently on our podcast, now they're going back and forth with one another after what Jonathan said on the Believe in Panthers podcast. And I mean, but Jonathan hit the nail on the head. If you're going to ball your fist up and put your face mask in the face of another man, like, dude, there's a certain level, forget even football, forget football team. There's a certain level of respect man to man that you just have for someone, especially someone that is a coach on the team that you're on. You just don't cross those boundaries, man. And he's done it before.
I don't know. I didn't realize that he had an issue with Joe Brady last year. I heard that he had some sort of argument with Joe Brady. On top of that, here is the thing: is like, I think this is not Steve Wilkes putting his foot down. I think this is the Panthers getting fleeced, right? I mean, the Panthers are just once again foolish looking for paying Robbie Anderson a lot of money, and you can't get anything for him. If anything, you should have been trying to showcase. I won't say showcase him. Like, I don't know how this. I think this just expedited him getting out of Carolina. And that's why I think he did this. Like, I think he's the one that knew that this would get him out of Carolina and somewhere faster than if they just sat around. And maybe he was worried that if he sat around, they wouldn't do anything. But this is nothing. These are like the worst. Like, we got more for Kyle Allen.
Yeah, I mean,
his
numbers are pedestrian. I mean, it's really
insane. But I mean, he's got. Okay, maybe you're right. Maybe I think these guys are better than they are. Maybe that's my problem, is thinking that he's worth more than a 6th-round pick.
By the way,
he was to us.
Just wanted to make sure I didn't miss this. Chad Morales with the $1.99 super chat says, J Stu is keep pounding. Robbie is the brand. And
that's a good one.
They even hinted that the Panthers are trying to get all of Matt Rule's guys out of the locker room. And it's a further commentary that there were Matt Rule's guys that he had brought in that he liked a lot, that maybe the rest of the organization didn't. And, we all know that Matt Rule coached Robbie Anderson at Temple. So, again, this was that nephewtism, like our man Pat Coltrane says all the time. Again, I think they had no choice but to get this man out of the locker room. And by the way, it's not really even an indictment on his talent. I mean, we have not had a consistent quarterback for the past 5 years in Carolina. Maybe Kyler Murray is able to form a better kind of connection with him than any quarterback has done for the Panthers thus far. I'm sure he can, but I've said before that deep receiver, the go route receiver on the Carolina Panthers, has been cursed ever since Cam Newton hurt that shoulder.
Snake bitten. Want to highlight superfan Slim Pickens comment. He says, y'all saying Robbie ain't OOU? One of us. We've got that later. Matt Rule. Jonathan Jones comes out with a story that somehow, and why can't we see the 3-page document? That's what I just want to see, is the full 3-page document. They've only given us some clips. If anybody's got it, can you drop a link to the actual document? But Matt Rule and the brand, the Pepsi brand, born in the Carolinas, hardest working, greatest working team. We're going to come talk about that later. We've also got his OOU. This is, if you can't recite this mantra, you're not one of us, and that is the brand. But right now, the story of the day, or the story of the week, is Robbie Anderson being traded to the Arizona Cardinals. And then today, Robbie Anderson is going after the podcast. Why can't he come after us? Why can't he even come after us,
Give
man?
us some clout, bro.
We're small
I
fries,
do think
man.
I do think that the story that was slightly put out, or I guess the tweet that Believe Network put out, was maybe a little misleading about the statement that Jonathan Stewart made. And Jonathan Stewart actually was very critical. It wasn't misleading, but in the exact quote that they said, he said, y'all young guys, listen to me. Like he was talking to players about how they should be, not talking to Robbie, but talking to other players about like the appropriate behavior as pros and like how you do things. But Jonathan Stewart and the Believe in Carolina and Believe in Panthers podcast, like we said, he came on last week, and Jonathan Stewart brings you that very player perspective, he's got the opposite. Well, I wouldn't say the opposite personality of Robbie, as in, I don't think Robbie is like super amped when you talk about it to him. He's like, he's real. But like Jonathan Stewart's demeanor is 1000% different than Robbie Anderson's, right? He's very cautious. He's very measured. He's not talking about things he doesn't understand or overly emotional on things. I feel like he's very in lane, like down the fairway. But he had an issue with this. I think he's rooting for this team to get better. I think that he hates to see the Carolina Panthers like this. And he probably knows that if you are going to turn this sucker around somehow and find any sense of success, it's not behaving like this. So tell us about what happened. What is this? As Jonathan Stewart goes on the Believe in Carolina Panthers podcast. Cody, CK, did you catch the comments themselves? I watched it, but maybe you got a good memory of what he said.
I mean, eventually,
I have a clip if y'all want to play it.
Yeah, play the, because I know it's not a very long clip. So yeah, we can do that.
And this is Jonathan Stewart from the
Believe in Panthers podcast.
Believe in Panthers podcast.
See, the shut your mouth and play. What he was talking.
Temper tantrum because he wasn't getting his way. Whatever that is, you're really showcasing to the entire world, who you are when things don't go well, when things aren't going right. It's one thing if you're out there making catches and you're out there having 100-yard games and you're frustrated on the sideline that you aren't getting the ball in a moment in the game. That's not the case. So for the young guys, keep your mouth shut and play.
Yep.
Roll with the punches. That's part of the game. It's part of the growth. It's part of the opportunity for the growth. And when your time comes, you make the most of it. Now, I understand the frustration and I can respect the frustration, but when you are on national television, you do not act like that. And so for the guys, for the guys that are in that Panther receiver room, take this as a learning experience. You have a guy now that's at a head coach position that ain't with that. And none of these other coaches are either. Now, Robbie, I would like to hope that you can see that the grace of God is on your career right now because the Cardinals situation.
Yeah.
Now, count your blessing because you would be out of a job right now.
And that's what Jonathan Stewart had to say. And by the way, literally nothing unfair or wrong about what he said at all in the slightest.
He literally, I mean, everything was 100% right on par with it. And I'll say this much because I think it's important that we put this into context too, right? Robbie has always, I know you wide receivers tend to get the diva, moniker that goes along with them and whatnot. Well, Robbie Anderson has somewhat embraced that from early on in his career. He was playing with, I don't know if you remember this or not, but we were playing him and Josh McCown when he was on the Jets. He was kind of a breakout star that year. Like, and we were destroying their squad. Like, it was not even close to them beating us. And Robbie Anderson scored a touchdown. And the thing he goes to the camera and says is, vote me to the Pro Bowl, vote me to the Pro Bowl. And I'm like, dude, you're down by 30 points in a game that means something. Like, let's have some, like, I guess, realization about where you're at.
Awareness.
Because, yeah, exactly. I mean, at this point in time, and there was no awareness. And I know that this has been a frustrating situation. It's been a frustrating situation for every single player on that team. But to sit here and say that it's all right to do that, like, I mean, the people that are defending this is hysterical. Like, there's so many people that are like on Robbie Anderson's side here. And I'm just, how
really?
can
I haven't
Robbie
seen
Anderson?
that. I haven't really, but I haven't been looking today. Is that, tell me about those people who
a
are.
lot of people
saying,
felt like Robbie got it wrong.
Well, I'm not gonna name any names, but we're in a group chat with a few of them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah, go ahead,
don't know.
Mike.
I haven't seen anybody like anybody who's played the game that's broadcasting that I listen to on any kind of sports show, any kind of network, hasn't gone through any defense toward Robbie Anderson. They've all pretty much felt the same way that Jonathan Stewart has.
No,
Maybe
no,
it's just
I
people
mean
that I'm listening
mainly
to.
friends.
Yeah, oh no,
Yeah.
I get that. I'm just saying, as far as media goes, I haven't heard a lot of people that I would put validity behind what they say, or at least trust in their judgment. I haven't heard them defending Robbie Anderson.
Right.
Like I said, maybe on, like Cody said, what you're frustrated about is understandable, and you may not be wrong in the situation, but it's the manner in which you act.
I think everybody could be on this offense, could be frustrated.
100%.
Like, who cares?
100%.
It's like, we weren't going to throw it to you anyway. It was third down. We hadn't thrown the ball more than a yard, bro. Like, why you even want to be out there on the field for that? I wanted to, God, I can't find it. Speaking of the awareness, there's a picture that I saw today or yesterday where Robbie Anderson were down 32-3 or something like that against the Bucks. And there's like 1 minute left, or, man, it's like the game is just a rout, and Robbie Anderson makes a catch and then celebrates the first down. Like, woo! And everybody's like, dude, we're getting killed.
He's in his world,
But I think
man.
everybody is frustrated on this. Now, as we come into this and continue to discuss it, if we look at this, let's just look at, so Jonathan Stewart makes these comments on the Believe in Panthers podcast. Now, I wish I would have known this. I was looking for these comments all day. I couldn't find them. And then somebody goes, I think it's on IG, dude. And I don't use Instagram a lot. But so if I can see, he says, so Robbie Anderson jumps on the thread and says in talking to Jonathan Stewart, you lame as fuck for this and don't even know the ins and the out. I could respect you if you pulled up and said this to me direct, but you jump on a podcast to use my name to get some traction. That shit lame as fuck, homie. Now, I got issue with this. Is like, that's the whole point of podcasting. It's like, no, it's not. It's
Yeah,
like
really.
He's not your mentor. He's not your friend. Like, actually, it'd be weird if Jonathan Stewart came up to your house and knocked on the door and was like, hey, Robbie, I really want to talk to you about, like, I'm a black man that cares about other black men and their success or whatever. Like, I mean, he's like, God, what? Like, how would he react to that? That's the whole point of the damn news. That's the whole point. Like, it's like, oh man, imagine if he said to Shannon Sharp, I wish you wouldn't have talked about, you should have just come and talked to me in my face. No, that's what we do right now, number one. And the only reason that you get paid $28 million is because people talk about y'all and we watch and we buy shit. So, like, to me, I thought that was weird. He goes on, and I mean, he's like making it a respect thing. He's like, G up. Says, you ain't finna try and paint me like that. I'm the issue. I can't throw the ball to myself or call the plays. I did what I could since day one. Don't speak on me no more. What is that last part? Jit?
Jit. It's like a
Legit?
it's a South Florida thing, man.
Yeah.
Uh,
I love
Yeah.
I saw an
No.
interview the other day, and he spoke about how well he articulates like that himself, and like how he speaks. I was like, okay.
all right, man. We got some cool stuff. We got more talk to get into this, but we've got some due diligence to do. Who's our guest? JC Allen, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, JC Allen should be on here soon. From
Pewter
the
Report, come on
Pewter
and help
Report.
us figure out what's going on with
Oh,
the
speaking of the devil.
Bucks. Look, speak of the devil, he's
Like
here, but
Beetlejuice.
we've
Yeah.
got a little work to do. CK, new member to the C3 Superfan, and other people can be as cool as Will Horsley by hitting that join button and supporting the podcast as we grow and this